And welcome to Conservative Talk.
The hypocrisy from the left knows no bounds.
And Florida leads the way in states protecting kids.
And Elon's genius shows with the kitchen sink.
And Buck had an interesting thought the other day over in the conspiracy corner, and that is that Nancy effed around and Paul found out.
And since the left is banning guns from the right, their weapon of choice is a hammer now.
Seems like no one's safe. And welcome back to Conservative Talk. My name is Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And we always like to take a moment to remind our viewers to make sure they're hitting the like button and the share button. That helps Jamie and I to get organically higher into the news feed. While you're there, also make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. That way you will always stay up to date on any content that we produce and put out on any of the platforms that we release our content on. Also, help us out by making sure you're going to our website at conservativestalk.org and hitting that sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and helping us out with what you're able to, because every little bit goes an incredibly long way to ultimately Jamie and I taking over the world. So, Jamie, would you like to jump right into your first reminder?
Boycott hometown headlines. Hey, and here's a reminder and a thank you to all you who have actually gone out there and boycotted hometown headlines, because we're hearing word through the grapevine that your voice is being heard, and it won't be long before this guy's out of here. So continue the boycott, continue to push forward for the betterment of our county and our region, and have Rome News Tribune remove this awful column from their paper.
Yeah, when you're going into unsubscribing to their paper for all of this stuff, might even be good when they say, "Hey, why are you unsubscribing to this?" Leave a little message in there saying it's because of this jackwagon that I am unsubscribing.
Yeah, I mean, and they even, as usual, they call back and they ask subscribers what would they do to come back, and that's what I told them. I was like, look, hey, at the current time and the current messages that we're getting from hometown headlines, we're in a full boycott. So no, as much as I like Rome News Tribune, I will not be a part of that paper or a subscriber to that paper so long as this jackwagon is still employed there.
So just remember, keep it up. You're being effective.
You're almost there.
So, Jamie, would you like to get into your favorite part?
Yes. Boom! 6 days until we cancel Stacey Abrams and the rest of the Democratic ticket.
Oh, it's going to be so good. And I know this sounds bad, but I don't mean it the way it is going to sound, but
yes, you do.
I'm looking forward to that tombstone.
Exactly. I'm ready for it. I've heard more about their candidates on Comedy Central than I have at anything else here in Georgia.
And that tells you about all you need to know.
That should tell you everything you need to know. Like, I mean, like the Viacom, the most left network. For those of you who don't know, the company that owns CMT, MTV, Comedy Central, BET, and yes, I said that right. The same people who own Country Music Television own Black Entertainment Television. That should also tell you something. They are pushing more commercials for the left than anyone else and refuse to play right-wing commercials. All that is New York money. Yep. Trying to impact our elections.
Again, that should tell you a lot there.
Tells you everything you need to know.
So with that, we always do like to make sure that we acknowledge our affiliates. We have both national and some very good organizations that push forth a great message. And our first one being Net News Network. So Net News Network is kind of a compilation of grassroots podcasters and production groups that put out local news and local information on this network and this platform. It's a great source for any sort of very specific localized information. There's some great interviews on there, some great people that are producing some of the content like Jamie and I. So make sure you're going to netnewsnetwork.net and checking out some of that information, that content that they are putting out there. We also want to say a quick thank you to another one of the organizations that is supporting a lot of what we're doing here, and that is Veterans for America First. So, Veterans for America First is a political grassroots organization that really pushes the America First policy. And they do that by ensuring that they have people on the grounds that are continuously fighting in the political trenches on the front lines of this cultural warfare that we see going on across the entire country, to make sure that America does remain the greatest nation in the entire world. And they do a lot of that through their platform being Vet Voice. So Vet Voice is the media arm of Veterans for America First. And you're only going to find content producers on this platform that fight tooth and nail every single day to make sure that we do, in fact, remain the greatest nation in the world. So, Jamie, with that, let's jump right on into our first little topic on that, and that being that the hypocrisy of the left really knows no bounds.
Where do we even begin? So we're going to start with Obama, right?
Yes,
and his speech in Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Michigan governor held a rally, not just for herself, but all the candidates that are the ultra left wing, just crazy out there, super progressive radicals. And I mean, you had all the state reps up and into and including the governor and their congressional representative for the area that this rally was held, and that being Ilhan Omar. So that should tell you a lot right there.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the thing for me. We continue to see this in these private Democrat rallies, and thank God for the people who actually go out there and record and put it online, because no one actually goes to them. And so we've seen this multiple times now, to where you have Obama comes out and says these radical things. Joe Biden comes out and says these radical things. Omar says these horrific, anti-Semitic comments. And then you have like Raphael Warnock, who was down here in Georgia, who was saying God gave us a choice to murder babies. Like all these things were said at private Democrat events.
Stacey talking about how if you kill babies, it will help with inflation costs.
Or the fact of like her saying that the heartbeat that you hear at 6 weeks is not real. It's manufactured for men to control women's bodies. That's their true meaning. That's what they will say to their people, what they want to hear, when the reality is, and this is what I love about the Republican Party. The Republican Party, what we say behind closed doors, what we'll say to your face.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's no hidden agenda. There's no hidden message. This is who we are. This is what we're going to do. And this is what we mean. People skew that, but that's exactly like we're saying exactly what we mean. Whereas they're going to lie to their constituents' face and then turn around and tell the truth and close doors to the 6 people who donate millions of dollars to him.
You're not wrong about that. Although I will say you were a little factually incorrect when you were talking about the size of the rallies in this regard. So I did see the video when we're going to quote what Obama said there during this rally, but I did see the video for this, and they did pan around to see how many people are in there. Then I would say there was roughly at max 300 people in attendance for this.
Well, so
beforehand, I've attended multiple Trump rallies across the entire country. 300 people is the line outside of these rallies.
Of the people who didn't get in.
Well, not just that. I mean, there's several hundred that are out there doing that, but 300 people are in these lines at 8 a.m. to get into these rallies.
Yeah, I will never forget. When we worked on the Trump rally that came to Northwest Georgia, it was beyond astonishing at the fact of we had 38,000 people in the arena, and we had like another 10,000 people who couldn't get in.
Oh yeah.
Like who we were booked to capacity. We had no more standing room, and couldn't get in, and they still waited down the street just so they could hear him over the intercom.
And it was shoulder to shoulder in there. There was no moving room in there. I tried to get through some of that crowd, and it was next to impossible.
Yeah.
I had people outside. Hey, can you help me get in? Hey, can you help me get in? Hey, no. It's like,
I've been here for 12. I've literally been here for 12 hours. Like you just now want me to help you get in. Like I was feeling the same thing. Like I was like, well, I I will never forget this. We had some great student volunteers from
Mhm.
one of the local colleges, and when I realized we were shutting down, um, I went and grabbed those guys and I was like, "Hey, I need you to follow me." And as soon as we got back behind the Secret Service line, I was like, "Boys, those people out there about to be real mad," and that's why I had to come grab you because we're closing the doors right now, and I was gonna leave you out there as a volunteer with 15,000 people.
Yeah, there were upwards of 38,000 people that were packed inside the airport, and there were still another 15 trying to get in.
Yep.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you something right there, then I don't know what
I mean, they
will.
came out from all over, but I digress. But I mean, it just mainly shows you the difference in not just popularity, but what the country is yearning for.
Absolutely. So what we're referring to when we're talking about they know no bounds in this, and I'm going to quote this directly. This came out of Obama's mouth, and it says, "Well, he said, when we don't just disagree with people, but we start demonizing them, making wild, crazy allegations about them, that creates a dangerous climate."
Oh, like what they did with women.
Yeah, especially with our sitting Supreme Court justice when they came out and made all those crazy, wild allegations against Justice Gorbanach. I mean,
Yeah.
and then ultimately there was a man that was arrested outside of his house trying to get in to assassinate him.
Yeah. I just me,
Or,
me
or like what Bernie Sanders did that led to his supporter going out to a softball practice or baseball practice and trying to murder multiple members of Congress.
me and Buck hear a lot of crazy things, and I hate to bring you into this on this part, but it's astonishing to me how there's a pattern of, and I'm not saying that they're the ones who are doing this, but there's a pattern for when you talk negatively about Democrats, high-ranking Democrats, people, something happens to them, you know. And this is so it's hypocrisy to me that they're going to come out here and say, we need to stop demonizing people, um, and all this. That's just like a fluff speech because they know they're losing ground.
Oh yeah, so and it's incredibly just hypocritical coming out of this man's mouth because if you remember back when the whole Black Lives Matter started and first came about, when the whole hands up, don't shoot thing, Obama came out and demonized the police.
Mm-hmm.
And Louis Farrakhan, Obama's best buddy, came out and started demonizing police. That's what we started seeing, or that's where we saw the officers being assassinated down in Louisiana, where the barricaded shooter up in the parking deck. That's what was the ultimate lead to that. Obama led the charge on that. He's the one that started the whole climate behind the whole anti-police, the whole defund the police movement is ultimately in his lap with this.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. And that's kind of where I led to it too, was, people have said things about Michelle, all this other kind of stuff, and they've been ridiculed about her just, not being necessarily
A woman.
Yeah. Yeah. That on top of not being very first lady like.
It's the hands.
It's the Adam's apple.
That too.
You can't surgery can't fix that.
Can just
and so it's those things that like I mean, just even Bill, or Joe Biden. Joe Biden has said even racist things about Obama.
Well, I mean, just here recently, Biden came out and called anyone that is in the quote unquote MAGA movement as well, that they are against the democracy and they are enemies of the state, essentially. And then we look at what old Hillary did, coming out and calling all Republican supporters deplorables.
Yeah, or Omar actually being like, I mean,
talking about it's all about the Benjamins.
It's all about the Benjamins. That's the only reason why we send money to Israel. That's not the reason why we send money to Israel. It's because not going there. But you get my drift.
Oh yeah, no, that they put this on our shoulders, say that we are the radicals, that conservatives are the extremists, that we are the people that are anti-democracy, even though technically we're a republic. It's always us. But going back and looking at a lot of this, it's not really us, it's them that are really hyping up the rhetoric that leads to a lot of conservatives being physically harmed or even killed in most cases, like what we saw with the young man. I believe it was in South Dakota where he was ran down because the guy who killed him said that he was a MAGA supporter.
And he got out on cash, on a no cash bail.
No, well, he had to pay a little bit of a bail, but the fact that he was still released
on bail.
Yes, the fact that he was released for murder.
Did he have to pay a
everything.
bail? I'm pretty sure that he had a cash bail.
No,
he had no cash bail.
No, it was he did pay.
We'll have to watch. We'll have to go back. Look, but yeah, either way, the fact that he was out on bail for murder, after his only justification for running someone down with his vehicle and killing them was the fact that he was protecting democracy and killing another conservative. That's what they think of you. Like, that in itself should tell you, to all our listeners, that's what they think of you. That's what they think of us, is that our lives are expendable as so long as it preaches their message. And to go back to another point I was making earlier when we were talking about Viacom and Redstone owning so many of the pop culture things and pop culture channels, that is where this whole underlining message gets skewed, and why, as you get older, you tend to see more people who are millennials or things like that become conservative once they actually get out there and get out of mainstream pop culture. It's because from the age of 13, when you really start watching MTV, BET, Comedy Central, all these other networks, you're not realizing that they're owned by one company who is a very, very far left-leaning company who is preaching the message that they want. So they're doing these targeted ads, targeted messaging, subliminal messaging inside of their shows. And then you get to 25 years old and you realize, hey, this isn't how the world looks. This is how the world really is.
Yeah. Well, that in the schools as well. But it's
that's where we have to maintain local control.
Yes. But it's not just Viacom that's doing this, and just popping off the top of my head. One of the most popular, we'll call them adult cartoons out there, being Family Guy, really streams pretty far left now as well.
Well, and here goes to another part of that point, right? Because one of the great legends said it best, right? J.D. Rockefeller, when he was asked to split up Standard Oil, said, "I'm just a president of a company who owns a large majority percentage." So when I'm giving a little bit of backstory for this, but when we split up antitrust laws, we didn't look at the fact of, majority percentage to a certain degree, which is fine. And it works great for a capitalist. But when you look at the messaging of how these left-leaning companies have done it, they own 34, 35, 40% of a company, and then it goes all the way around. So when Cartoon Network, which is what Family Guy's on, Peachtree TV.
It's Fox TV. It just replays on Cartoon.
Yeah. Well, Fox TV, like a lot of these companies, when you go back to the center of them, it's Disney. Or it's Viacom. Or it's and majority of their boards sit on each other's boards, to where it'll say, okay, well, Disney owns a large percentage of this company, so we have our executive representatives go in their place. So what you're doing is all of your C-level executives hold one board seat on all these others, and then depending on who's pushing the message depends on who goes to that meeting.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
Most of them aren't independent anymore.
Yeah, it's all just incestuous at this point. But I guess again, the way we can fight back against that, and to really show these corporations and these companies that because I don't want to give an issue without giving a potential solution with this. What we can do with that is by when you are watching these companies, if you're not just completely turning it off altogether, you see some of the products that they're advertising. Boycott those products.
Oh yeah, not just what I've learned too, because it's all about ratings, right? And they're not dumb, and these are companies that web and flow based upon the what's hot in the news. slight example, okay? Let's take BMW, okay? BMW years ago did the BMW emblem with the Nazi symbol in between it, right up under it, instead of, the little square checker. During Pride Month this past year, they did the same thing, but with the rainbow flag in there, because they're a company. They're going to web and flow. Their principles are based upon whatever their large subscription is. So what I do is, whenever they get these like Charlemagne gets on Comedy Central, I just change the channel. And now he's had to rebrand everything else, because a lot of other people who may watch Comedy Central, like I do for South Park, are going to change the channel when something like that comes on, because that's not something that we're willing to support or even have our TV on to give you the viewership, even if we're not in the room. And eventually, if enough people do it, they're going to eventually rebrand or change the channel, or, cancel the programming that lean into those things.
Yeah, well, a lot of that, again, goes back to the advertising dollars that they run during those programs. That's where my mindset, allow them to keep the viewer and the rating or their viewership and the ratings there, but not supporting the product. That, in my mind, that sends a message of saying, okay, I'm watching what you're doing, but I want this company that is advertising with you to know that I am not supporting what you are doing there. So I'm just going to boycott that product.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Hurts them in the pocketbook.
It's like, what's that Reagan boy's name? Who does there's a Reagan who does oh, you ain't seen this commercial yet? It's
Probably.
Awful.
Yeah.
It's the Atheist Foundation. Think how insane that is. Okay. Because they want to, and they only run this on, again, those Viacom channels. And it's it's to donate to the Atheist Foundation, to withdraw, like, to separate church and state, blah, 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 blah. And it's skewed messaging. It's all intentional. And my two main points in this is these are the people who are backing the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how you know that the Democratic Party is not in the best interest of America. It's not in the best interest of true Christian conservative values. And again, the solution in my mind truly is we have to build our own networks.
Well, yeah. And there are some that are working up and getting that started and going with that. We'll see how far that goes with it. Yep. But we always do like to remind our viewers to make sure that they are hitting the like button and the share button to help Jamie and I get higher into the organic feed. And make sure you're also hitting the subscribe button. That way you are never missing a single moment of any of the content or Jamie's incredibly infectious laugh. Also, make sure you're going to the website at conservativestalk.org and hitting the sponsor tab and helping us out with what you're able to, because it is because of our sponsors that we're able to continue to producing our content and really promoting and pushing it to ultimately achieve Jamie's and I's future dreams and visions of global domination.
Won't be long.
No. We're already well on the way of canceling a very
faster than we think
progressive local little news outlet here.
Faster than we think.
Oh yeah. So every little bit of that helps to help Jamie and I achieve our end goal of this, of a total global superiority.
Close.
Not getting far. So if you haven't heard by now, Twitter has they are in their final throes and being sold, and Elon Musk is going forward with the purchase of them. And it's incredible to think that almost the global common square for any sort of discourse is going to become a free platform again, or free speech platform again.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I'm excited. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm
Jamie actually reopened his Twitter.
I reopened my Twitter account. You know, I'm ready to roll now.
Yeah. And it's heartening to think that. So one of the things that is going to come out of this is a lot of the people who had received lifetime bans are ultimately going to be allowed to rejoin this platform and to be able to have a voice in the public square again. So it's heartening to think that they that people who had been banned because this one company determined that their thoughts, that their speech was so detrimental to America that they were just silenced and canceled altogether without recourse whatsoever. It's encouraging to think that this is now an opportunity to be overturned. And I know a lot of people personally that this is going to affect.
Yeah. It's very exciting to see.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Although I am going to need to turn off my notifications on that app now. Again.
I forgot all about that.
It's going to be a fun time.
But you know what, though? Here's the thing. We move. I feel like, let me start here. I feel like this was a great step back from the socialist agenda that has been pushed across America.
It's not just socialist; it's flat out communist.
Like, and this is a great step forward for the Constitution.
Oh, absolutely,
and the belief in freedom of speech.
And so I am all for, and don't get us wrong with this, or at least in my mindset, I am all for privately held companies being able to determine what is on their platforms. However, if that is the case, you do not deserve federal protection at the level that they have been receiving.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a big difference too, right? They were getting federal protection from this idea of being allowed to censor. But when it came through the ability of like certain things that they were censoring, it really just boiled down to the fact that they were only censoring conservative speech. Yes. They weren't stopping all the human trafficking that was being led through their platform. Nope. They weren't stopping all the misinformation that came from the left on their platform, all of the bots that were there. These are things that Elon was asking too, was like, what's your bot percentage? And I was laughing with Justin because when I went to download Twitter again on my phone, there was an app up under it that was literally called Tweetbots. And it was an app where you can download to create bots for Twitter. And so that's in itself why Elon was like, because if you have a Twitter, you can create multiple accounts. So here's someone who probably has 50 accounts and 49 of them are bots.
I know people that literally have thousands.
That's insane. That's insane, because all they're doing now is they'll tweet something and then immediately they have 1,000 retweets.
Yep.
So that pushes them higher in the news feed. Then more people will pick it up and they can go from there. Or at the same token, they can go through all these accounts and send a bot to send out a negative message that will send 1,000 negative comments or views, reshares, anything, retweets to someone else's opinion, and that automatically sends it to another section of the feed. It's awful because they're messing with free speech through an algorithmic process.
Oh yeah, no, you're 100% correct on that, and that's how a lot of people who are these quote unquote influencers, or a lot of people who are these big celebrities in or on this platform, that's how they got to be that way.
Yeah.
Was by a very coordinated algorithmic effort and having these bots really coordinate the push with it.
Yeah. And and I will say it
becomes monetized.
Yeah. And it becomes monetized after that. Like, Twitter never came through a way to stop it. Let me back up for a second, right? So when this first bot as an influencer using bots idea first came out, right? Instagram was one of the first people to actually stop it. So if it was found out that your account was a pay for likes type account, then they immediately would shut your account down. You'd have to start another one, things like that. Twitter, and I want to say TikTok, in a sense, hasn't really done anything to stop that, because all it does is really increase their algorithm. You never really saw that issue with Facebook or some of the other platforms because it's, you
had to have an email, verified email.
correct. So with Facebook and Snapchat and a few other platforms, you weren't able to influence that way. But because the majority of your stuff on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram was all based upon how many consecutive likes you could get or how fast you could get them, once you're paying for them, then someone else is just sending bots out to automatically like them. And now you're pushed up higher in the feed.
Mm-hmm.
Blue check marks, man.
Well, it's all the start of Skynet.
Yep.
Skynet is real. It is coming.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
Hey, and it's a race between Musk Enterprises and Meta.
That's the horrifying thing, is that he's 100% correct. So as you can see here, you see Elon entering into the Twitter headquarters with carrying a kitchen sink there, and the video of him doing this was shared with the caption of, Elon entering Twitter HQ. Let that sink in. Although I do have to say that was a very missed opportunity there.
Especially when everything that followed, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because really what happened was Elon came in and threw everyone, including the kitchen sink, out.
Fired the CEO, fired the CFO, fired the legal counsel and policy advisor, and named himself temporary CEO. And, well, another little tidbit of information in there, and just found this here within the past short period of time, that Reuters is actually reporting that the reason why he came in and removed a lot of these people, one aspect of that is because he would no longer he wouldn't have to pay a severance package or grant them stock options.
Yep.
For doing this. And it saved and reported $122 million by doing this.
You know what the other best part about this whole thing was?
That they're gone.
Not just that's the best part, but the second best part about this is after this moment, Elon then went in there and kicked all of their engineers out. So all their developers, he removed them from the headquarters, barricaded the doors, and let Tesla's developers come in and check the code.
Gotta love it. Yeah, I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
I mean, he was like, oh, okay, no, we're finna find all your dirt, and we're finna see what you've embedded in the code. We're finna make sure that you have no access inside of here to even try to disrupt the code. And then we're going to figure out the best way to recreate this platform and take it to the next level.
Oh, yeah. So when I'm referring to the missed opportunity, and Jamie alluded to it just a moment ago, is instead of coming in and saying, let that sink in, he should have said, I'm here to clean house, including the kitchen sink.
Yep.
But that's, that's one man's opinion of that. So
go Elon.
Yeah. So another really crazy aspect about this, and I just ran across this as well, is that after he came in and took over and everything began to look really official for him doing that, Twitter's HR actually emailed Elon a mandatory course that they said that he was going to be required to take, and that was on managing the company. Twitter's HR sent Elon an email saying, hey, you have to take this class in order to be able to manage the company. The audacity.
In the words of one of my favorite presidents, you're fired.
Yes. I love that. That's great. He needs to come in. He needs to come back in and make the HR team a part of the 3/4 of the company that he's kicking to the curb.
Yeah, you're fired.
Hire a bunch of security officers to come in and escort every single one of them out the front door,
out the office,
and record that.
Yep. Escort them out of the office.
Having a bunch of Twitter employees being walked outside of the headquarters office there by security. That would be the ultimate troll there.
This just gave me an awesome idea.
Thank you. You almost dropped it there.
Yeah.
So what's the idea? Mother says thank you as well.
I know how the back end code on side of Twitter works. So what we may need to do is
We don't need to go there because you're going to get us. You're going to get us assassinated. The moment this
we'll
hits,
end that there.
especially with Twitter, we're going to get a phone call from Elon. I was like, okay, elaborate.
No, he's
Like,
cool.
No, sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. No hablo inglés. And then I'm burning the phone.
Oh wait, that means we can open up a conservative talk on Twitter now.
We already have one. We actually stream our show on there.
Oh yeah.
I think we've got like 5 followers, but
we can boost that.
We'll get some bots. Twitter, if you can't tell, is not our main platform for a lot of this because we have thousands of people who have subscribed to our platform, but Twitter's not that one.
No. Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this goes. And going back to the point that we were talking about earlier about people who had received these lifetime bans being allowed to potentially get back on there. Before they are allowed to get back on there, they have to go through a new content moderation council or committee, or essentially a review board. It's going to be interesting to see who they allow back on these platforms.
Yeah,
I think that's actually going to be the most telling aspect of where this can potentially go,
and where this is going.
Because if you look at platforms like Parler is now pretty heavily censored.
Well, here's my thought too, right? Here's where I was really going with this. GitHub is a place where you can get open source code, and Twitter is one of those places where they open source their main platform code. So like their API key is public, so you can create your own. That's how Parler was created. That's how some of the back end of True Social was created. And maybe we need to create our own little message board for conservatives talk. And you use that same thing. It'd be a tweet style kind of message board, similar to how, as we were talking about beforehand, Rumble and Facebook are our biggest, I say, areas where we have followers. But similar to how people can go in and comment at the end of each episode, they can tweet us or they can talk or chat with us.
Jamie, we already have way too much on our plate. Why are you trying to come up with this extra stuff now?
Because you know me, Justin. Like I create stuff and I'll put it in a box and save it for later. and then 5 years later, I'd be like, "Oh, remember that idea? Hold on, I think that's in this file or on this USB drive. Let's update it. Oh yeah, launch it."
In the immortal words, ain't nobody got time for that.
Hey, look, it's great because what's so funny is I went to my university's homecoming, and I took a 3-hour 6 p.m. class one semester. It was like for double credits. It was like 2 days.
I was about to say,
dude, when I tell you what this was, this is going to be even more elating. 2 days of the week, 3 hours a day for one semester, cover media and politics, and poli-sci majors and comm majors took it. So it's very interesting to see the professor who taught it to me, and he's like, it's not how I'm intended on you using this, but I'm glad that you're using it and using it well. he's like, I watched you from that class create your entire online persona, and then now that I see that you're a part of a political podcast, I see where you're going with this. And as your professor, I am proud, but as someone from Buffalo, New York, I'm concerned.
Yeah, my politics and media class, my professor there, I don't know exactly how they would feel about where I'm going with a lot of this, but I will say that was not anything that was hidden or that you would not have been inevitable to see. I mean, that was a pretty well outspoken student.
His fiance is also another professor there, and
same with mine.
And it was funny because they were like, Do you see how well of a black conservative Jamie's become? He goes, I know, I taught him. Like he's like, they do exist. Like he is real, and this is really him. He's been this way. He was this way when he got to college. He was this way through college. And now he's like doing all these things.
So fair warning. I am going to look on how I may possibly be able to superimpose a single horn coming out of the middle of your head during that statement.
Oh, I'm a unicorn.
Or at least in their mind. Because we're finding out that voters across the entire state of Georgia disagree with that.
Well, and here's the other thing too, right? And I'm just going to say it because we've been talking about whether we're going to say it or not.
I voted say it.
Showtime. Well, not whether we're going to say it or not, how we're going to say it. But when Showtime came down here and did the circus, right? They have a very interesting conservative who is on.
That's putting it.
Who's on their
show.
I
like the air quotes there because that was well used with that.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny to me that this individual, when he is any other place interviewing anyone else, he is just in, just a regular jacket, wearing his glasses, things of that nature. But when he interviewed me, he's in some Ray-Bans, a sports coat that matched his brand new Timberland boots. But they won't air that.
Yeah.
They won't air that. They won't air the fact that like it made them look very stereotypical. Thanks for the hat though.
Oh, they gave you a hat?
Oh yeah. Mailed it to me. Mail me a hat that says the circus with a thank you letter. Thank you for being gracious with your time.
All right, that just gave me another idea. We'll get to that later. Yeah, that's yeah, they just
it's on Instagram. You can go look at it on Instagram.
To the nearest social media platform of your choice. But yeah, it's encouraging to see that we are now going to have not just one with True Social, but not just one with True Social or two with Getter, but a actual third mainstream, actual free speech sort of platform.
It's beautiful.
Because even on Truth Social, yes, a lot of them are very conservative leaning people that are on there. However, you have some of the most left leaning, radical, crazy folks that are out there that are still able to put their opinions out on that platform.
Which is the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we as, and this is what I meant when we say we need to build our own, because we as conservatives need to just make sure that free speech reigns. Whether you like it or not, someone has a right to an opinion. It may not be the opinion of the minority, the majority, or really anyone else other than that individual, but they have a right to say it.
Well, when we take over the world, that'll all change. Iron Fist.
102.
For those of you who are not aware of what we're talking about,
please
do your homework.
Yeah. Not on our show, though.
Won't be going there. But with that, we do like to remind our viewers to make sure they're hitting the like button and the share button. It helps Jamie and I to get higher in the news feed organically, kind of like what we were talking about with the Twitter bots. We'll have to launch our own here in some time or another. Making sure that you're also hitting the subscribe button. That way you'll always stay up to date with any of our content, and you'll never miss a single moment of Jamie's incredibly infectious laughter, as you've been privy to this entire episode.
I got it. What if we had robots that tweeted for us? Anyway, sorry.
That's what bots do.
No. I'm talking about like actual robots that sit.
You are trying to build Skynet. And also make sure you're going to our website at conservativestalk.org and hitting the sponsor tab to help Jamie and I to be able to continue to produce this content and push this message out far and wide, so everyone in the world will know that Jamie and I have the most superior intellect and we deserve to rule the world single-handedly.
And soundbite's going to be used against us one day, but I love it.
You know, let them do it. Let them do it. Let them do it. We'll counter with something else as always.
I'll pull a Putin.
Yeah. Whoa. Now that one is definitely going to be used against us. Man, Jamie.
I'm in a mood today.
Obviously. So let's see what we can do with that mood and talking about our next subject, and that is that Florida is now leading the way in protecting kids in the states.
I love it. You know what? I was talking about this with someone. In my ideal world, you know what I'd love to happen? I would love for
Am I going to be able to sleep tonight?
President Donald Trump to come back, win in 2024. Okay. In that meantime, in those 4 years, DeSantis keeps building up. And then in 2028, he runs for president. Because the things that he's doing in Florida right now, like, that's what we need. That's the energy we need across the rest of this country.
Mhm.
I mean, you take DeSantis and Brian Kemp and what they're like standing tough on right now in Georgia and Florida, and you take that energy across the United States, we will get back to America. You let President Trump come in for four more years, really get the federal government back in line. You let those two governors lead the way and whipping everybody else into shape, and then have DeSantis kind of step up from there and run for president. That's the next 12 years we need.
Yeah, and you were absolutely correct with that. I could not have said it better, nor would I agree more with anything that you just said. I just have to say, I think I really rubbed off on him while he was teaching
teaching
my
you
high
history.
school. Yeah. I really must have been a major influence on him in his life.
Had to be.
There's
You know
no
what I mean?
way for him to turn out that way.
But between him having you as a student and getting this beautiful Rome, Georgia, Northwest Georgia air, I mean, that really builds. It's in the water. It's in the water.
He must have understood in that moment what freedom and liberty really were. Tasted it for the first time.
It's that Coosa water, man. I'm telling you.
Don't read the newspaper about that one. That'll keep you up at night. So if you're not aware of what we're talking about, so Florida is actually going to be one of the first states in the entire union to ban transgender kids or kids from being subjected to these horrible just mutilations, these life-altering experimental procedures and transitioning from one gender to another, although there are only
two genders.
So that aspect aside, Florida is going to be banning it as a state practice from occurring.
Yeah,
seriously.
Have to. Because and as we'll have to cut that pause because I was going to say, can we allude to the Roman special?
Sure.
As you will hear from us in our next Roman special, it's going to be coming out pretty soon with City Commissioner Mark Cochran. That's the big problem, right? You don't allow nowadays kids got to be 21 to buy tobacco. They got to be 21 to drink. They got to be 18 to go into the military. They got to be 18 to 21 to purchase a weapon. But yet
18 to get a tattoo.
18 to get a tattoo.
16 to be able to drive. 18 to be able to vote.
But at 12, they can say that they want to be a boy or a girl and go through like life-altering surgeries. Justin hates that I'm on TikTok so much, and I'm kind of starting to hate it too because it's just everywhere, and I'm getting addicted to it. But I say all that to say,
which I'm glad you're back on Twitter now because I have to introduce you to a page on there called Libs of TikTok.
Oh no, I got shown it.
Yeah,
the queen showed it to me.
You'll never leave that page again.
And so here's the thing though is on TikTok there is a activist who has actually come out and she has she speaks out against the transition of children because someone allowed her to do it when she was younger.
And about Chloe.
Yes. And now she has the voice of a man. She no longer has boobs, breast. That's the proper word. She no longer has breasts. and you know, she's advocating for the fact of like, you know,
She has no idea if she'll ever be able to have kids.
once she turned, you know, what I mean, once she started actually coming of age, like she was like, what have I done to myself?
Mhm.
Like most people do, you know?
Once that front cortex begins developing and you start to become a rationally thinking adult,
That's why he's a
you
physical
have
scientist.
already altered your body to the point that there is no reversal on that whatsoever. And which is crazy to think because the federal guidelines within our federal government say that, okay, we don't advocate for transitional surgeries prior to being 18 or for minors, but they advocate for what are known as what it's called it's partially reversible gender affirming care.
So I just have to say this is astonishing for the flip flop that we've heard from the left and the federal government over the years, because you can go back and look at this. Okay, the Democratic Party for the longest time fought against the legalization of marijuana because of the fact of that they believe that it did damage to the frontal lobe and the development of children if they started smoking too early. This is the same party who is now saying we're going to ignore that so that we can transition kids because it's okay for them to do it even though their frontal lobe is not developed.
Yep.
And then now they've even gone back on that stance too, and to push a vote through, Joe Biden has come through and decriminalized marijuana when the left was the one who was fighting the right this entire time in the decriminalization of marijuana.
Yeah, because us capitalist pigs were wanting to
everybody's been salivating
tax the you know what out of it.
Everybody's been salivating trying to get marijuana legislation passed across the United States, but it's been the left and the Democrats who've been saying trust the science, right? You're going to slow the developmental process of children, and then yet to win votes, they change their mind on it and change their mind to transition children to help their sick voters.
Again, the left's hypocrisy knows no bounds.
Knows no bounds.
But yeah, so it's funny to think that in conjunction with what you're talking about there, the thought behind what they dub as partially reversible gender affirming care. How if it is partially reversible, that means that it's partially irreversible, meaning that what you've done cannot be reversed.
This is going to get us canceled. But when you whack off the willy whacker, there's no coming back from that.
No, not at all. Or build one.
Yeah. Like, there's no coming back from that. This whole thought process.
So we got to do hashtag stop the chop.
There we go. It's mind blowing to me that we've allowed for this to ruin so many aspects of not just the American culture, but even those who, you know, are homosexual who've been fighting for their own identity has now been taken over by this grotesque, you know, thought process of that's been engulfed inside the left.
And I've heard this statistic being thrown out there, although I'm not entirely sure that I'm quoting it correctly. But from what I understand, 1 in 10 school-age children now in the United States identify as trans.
Well, yeah, I heard that too. And I also heard about this furry thing and that I can't get off of because that between the two of them.
Jamie's curious.
No. See, I'm holding back my true words because I know mom's listening. I'm sorry for even thinking about cussing, but
so if you're interested in that one, I caught somebody else on the team looking at something called Pony Play. You should see that one.
I've seen that. I saw that on TLC because that was before the furries. So
like,
look,
what in the world's going on here?
We have to tell our listeners, okay? Because here's the thing: there are these two categories of people out there now who we need to have a real come to Jesus meeting as a country, because there are people who like to dress up as ponies and be ridden by their significant other and put on a leash by their significant other. And then there are these people who are called furries or like canines, right? Where they like to be dressed up as dogs and walked around on a leash, or they have children now in school trying to fight their teachers and principals to get litter boxes put in the bathroom because they self-identify as cats.
And to be able to answer questions addressed to them with meow.
With meow. When did we let, like, you know what would have happened to me if at any point in my life I had went to my parents and said, I identify as a cat and I want you to address me as meow?
Probably the same thing that happened.
Do you know how fast I'd have been slapped? Do you like my jaw hurts just thinking about the fact of like what my parents would have done to me if I had even thought about something like that. Or if, can you imagine getting a letter sent home saying that Jamie disrupted class today because he wanted to try to get a litter box put in the bathroom so he could use the litter box instead of the toilet?
Corrective measures is what comes to mind. Spare the rod.
Wow. Like,
yeah.
Face hurts thinking about it.
Oh, man. And I'm definitely not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Oh, I'm twitching now.
Yeah. Like I keep looking at the door at this corner of my eye to check, see if my mom's not bursting in. So one thing she always said, no matter how big I ever get, the broom handle will always reach.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, look, before I even had to put mom in a nursing home, it was wild at the fact of, so I took her to the hospital, right, for just a regular checkup. And that's when us and one of our very well local hospitals decided that, you know, we really do need to put her in a nursing home. It's time. And I was helping the nurses with some stuff because she's very meticulous. And all of a sudden, it's like she hadn't remembered my name in 6 to 8 months. But all of a sudden, I did something, and she said, Jameson, bow, and slapped me. And
when you know you're in trouble, when they use the full name.
Well, not only that, it's just the fact of, you know, she used my full name, and it brought her back to consciousness.
Some pent-up energy with that one.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, to get away from this subject, let's remind our viewers to make sure they're hitting the like button and the share button on any of the content that we do produce and release on any of the platforms. Also, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button on any of the platforms that you do see our content out on. That way, you'll always stay up to date on any of the content that we produce and release, as well as always be able to see Jamie's incredible smile and hear that infectious laughter and be a part of his amazing stories. Also, if you're able to, make sure you're going to our website at conservativetalk.org and hitting that sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and helping us out with what you're able to, because every little bit goes an incredibly long way to allowing Jamie and I to be able to produce this content and put it out and push it as far and wide as we can so we can realize both Jamie, mine, and both of our parents, I would imagine, both of their dreams as well of total world dominance by Jamie and myself. So
they'll benefit from it, even though they think that that's a horrible idea. They'll benefit from it.
I can just feel my mother's gaze right now. Right. She's going to be listening and watching this. I can just feel it. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind,
sorry, Mom.
With that in mind, let's talk about what Buck had been whispering in our ears back over in the conspiracy corner earlier.
This is interesting.
So he's saying here with this is that Nancy kind of effed around a little bit and Paul found out what the deal was.
Yeah.
And before we start any of this, I want to make it explicitly clear. Jamie and I in no way, shape, or form advocate for political violence on behalf of any organization, any leaning, any belief out there. That's the absolute wrong way of going about anything like this. So that's the last thing that we would ever want before we go into national divorce. But with that in mind,
yeah.
With
before we hit secession.
So what we're talking about here is that Nancy's husband, Paul Pelosi, was recently attacked in their home. Nancy was not there; she was out of town, and I believe she was in D.C. So Paul was attacked by a man who was, and I want to be able to list all of these correct adjectives describing this man. He was a left-wing activist. Make no mistakes about it. He, out in front of his home, or out in front of his significant other's home where he had been living for a long time. They had the Black Lives Matter, the Trans Matter, the whole rainbow gamut flag flying very well outside their home. So that's what they associate with themselves with, not to mention the fact that he was a prolific nudist. He protested on behalf of this, or on behalf of not being able to wear clothes out in public multiple times, to where he actually had a significant nickname about it. I'm not going to go into what that was. It's wow. He was an accused pedophile. His stepkids did accuse him of sexual abuse. He was a well-known drug addict as well as a drug dealer. He sold narcotics to individuals around the area. He was a convicted felon. And on top of that, he was an illegal alien from Canada. But yet he was still here. And at the time,
blame Canada,
was living homelessly, as they described him, or at least in the last report that I'd heard, he was considered homeless, living in a storage locker in San Francisco.
This has the making of, like,
if we had the rights, I would really play that song right now.
Well, here's the thing, okay? This is everything that those of us who are in the know on the right know about the far left, but these are the same things that the far left tries to criticize the far right about. And what I mean by that is like, we talk about it as like, you all want to say that we're talking about Mexicans and Hispanic cultures coming up from the southern border. We're talking about all illegal aliens, because we know that y'all aren't buying it from Federico. You know what I mean? Y'all are getting it from Buddy, who's coming in from the northern border, who's living in San Francisco with, you know what I mean, old short bus Charlie, you know, who's like running wild in San Francisco and San Diego, spending all your money buying you drugs. Like that's the people that we're really talking about on the right. While they want to demonize us and say that we're talking about Hispanics, like, no, I'm talking about Charlie.
Black, brown, red, white, yellow, purple, pink, blue,
Canadian, Mexican, whatever. Russian, Ukrainian, like all of them.
English.
Everyone. English. There's a lot of that's the other thing too. There are a lot of English citizens who are here on expired visas and like are still working in these Fortune 500 companies, and like they're like, no, you only care about the Hispanics. No, Bob, I'm talking about you, who's running BBC America but refuses to update your work visa.
Round them all up. Let's go. Get in the truck.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, the hypocrisy. And this story takes the cake.
Yes. The fact that this guy was still allowed in a sanctuary city, which explains a lot, instead of being deported after he had been convicted of a felony and accused of being a pedophile, were allowed to remain inside these cities because of this whole sanctuary movement, this whole defund the police movement, all of this junk, which is pushed by the Democrat Party, being led by Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. So that's where we come to the conclusion that Nancy effed around and her husband found out about it.
What's amazing to me is what happened inside of the home.
Yes. So
because this in itself kind of shows two sides of things. But
yeah, so one of the things, or the main thing that's being pushed in the media narrative right now, was that reportedly when this man entered the home, he began demanding to see, or demanding, where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? And then the left-wing radical media began putting it out that, oh, well, that's what they were saying during the January 6th insurrection junk. So they're trying to equate what happened there with January 6th to get that whole thing back in the media narrative and the spin.
To I guess you could say, to bring down the reality.
trying to make it
they want a
out that this
docile.
is trying to make it out that this is a right wing supporter
Mhm.
or a MAGA guy, as they say.
But
They claimed that he had made QAnon posts online. They claimed that he had been promoting a lot of these conspiracy theories that we see about and pushing around there.
Blue and on posts.
Exactly.
Yeah. Q is something that serves the right. Blue and on is the real culprit. And
Well, Blue Anon's the left wing media altogether.
This guy, this is another reason why. Because I think it's very telling what Paul said.
Oh yeah. So when Paul was allowed to go to the restroom after this guy had broken into his home, he made a phone call to 911 where his phone was charging the bathroom, and he said that there was a guy in our home who had broken our home. He's here to. He didn't say he was here to see who he was claiming, but referred to the man as a friend, which you could kind of say, well, he was saying that because he didn't know if the guy was overhearing him and was listening in to the conversation and was afraid of his life.
I don't know. No friend who ties me up with zip ties.
Exactly. Not just that, but the guy knew that if the guy had been listening in, the guy would have known that he was on the phone with 911 dispatch. So referring to him as a friend would not have been. The fact that you're saying, "Hey, I need a squad car out here because a friend broke in and he's trying to kill me,"
tied me up and is beating me with a hammer.
Well, so the beating came after the 911 call.
Yeah, but
reportedly,
yeah, it's just the whole thing, and I was kind of wanting to get to the hammer part first because I think this really goes to the whole another thing that we've been trying to reiterate of the fact of violence is always going to be prevalent in a society. And it's similar to what happened in Europe when they banned guns, knife violence, not violence using knives as the primary weapon, skyrocketed. And I'm saying all that to say this. Here's another point from the left of to where they are coming after gun owners and the rightful uses of guns. And all it's going to do is continue to punish the people who purchase weapons legally. Because clearly, this man who attacked Paul Pelosi didn't need a gun, didn't use a gun.
Think of it this way. What if Paul Pelosi had been a Second Amendment supporter and had a firearm in the house?
See, then he just shot him. He shot his friend.
Problem.
He shot his friend and wouldn't thought twice about it. But now his friend tied him up with a zip tie and decided to put holes in his head using a hammer instead of him putting holes in his chest using a gun.
Yep. And again, this can get off in the spin, maybe be conspiratorial, and might likely lead to us being canceled. But we're going to do it anyway. What the heck? One of the things that we used to describe this gentleman that committed this heinous, this egregious, heinous act, which in no way, shape, or form we are condoning. But one of the things is that he was a known drug addict and a dealer. We know that Paul Pelosi was also a user of narcotics.
And we know this because when he got arrested for his DUI, narcotics showed up in his system. So you can go look back and look at the police report. That part is not a conspiracy.
Yes. So what if this guy was the dealer and Pelosi just hadn't paid up on his fees and the guy came to collect?
Pure speculation, right?
Absolutely. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
No. What I'm about to say is pure speculation. What if Nancy's the supplier? Because he comes in looking for Nancy.
It's not a bad point. What if
and all he found was Paul?
Or what if Nancy is the user?
Well, that's true too. Because see, I'm just sitting here thinking like Paul's on something. Here's someone else who's a big advocate on something. And he comes in looking for Nancy and beat Paul till he, to send a message to Nancy. Sounds like Nancy's the supplier and you got an addict and your husband in here caught up in the middle. Hey, seen crazier shit happen.
You were doing so good. We've
seen crazier stuff happen.
Yeah, we've seen crazier things in weirder places. And California being an incredibly weird place, especially with their sanctuary city policies and their whole defund the police and get community support people out in the field instead of police officers. We see how well that's worked out for them.
Well, I think that's why they wanted to do it too, right? Sanctuary cities, you could have people like this guy from Canada come in, or cartel leaders come in, stay, Russian mob people come in and stay, and then they have no fear of being transported out. And then Nancy supplies them with all the federal grant money to build whatever they need to, so then they can run their cartels and drugs everywhere.
I wonder if she's still going to be an advocate for sanctuary cities after this now,
because she can't get rid of them now. And I wonder, and since they defunded the police, I wonder how long it's going to take for San Francisco police to actually go find the guy. Because
he's already been caught.
He's already been caught?
Yeah, he's already in custody. Yeah, he was in custody immediately afterwards.
See how fast things happen when you actually need the police? Like, instead of trying to take away their resources? Huh. I wonder if Nancy changes her tone now.
I know. I'm pretty sure Paul
did.
Again, not going to touch that one. And in no way do we condone any sort of violence.
We don't condone violence.
But with that in mind,
we just see its purpose.
Yeah. I'm going to have to cut that. But, as always, with everything that does happen in life, it does inevitably come to an end. And with that, we like to make sure that we encourage our viewers to make sure they're hitting the like button and the share button on any of the content that we produce on any of the platforms. Also making sure you're hitting the subscribe button. That way you'll never miss a single moment of any of our content we produce. You'll always be able to see Jamie's incredible smile, hear that very infectious laughter, and we'll always stay up to date on Buck's outlandish theories. Also, if you're able to, make sure you're going to our website at conservativetalk.org and hitting that sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and helping us out with what you're able to. It is because of our sponsors that we're able to continue to produce all of our content and really promote and push it as well. That way, Jamie and I may ultimately one day in time be able to realize our dream and our goal of total world domination.
Won't be long.
We are on the precipice. We do want to say a quick thank you to our national affiliates and the organizations that do sponsor and promote our content as well, that being Net News Network. You can find Net News Network at netnewsnetwork.net. We want to say thank you to Veterans for America First and to their media arm, Vet Voice. Would you like to carry on with your favorite part?
Yes. 6 days until we cancel Stacey Abrams and the Democratic ticket, and we let the red wave roll free.
I'm just thinking, putting Stacey out to pasture like the bloated cow she is. Did I say that?
Oh, look, I sent Justin a picture.
Oh gosh.
Seems like there may or may not be a nude of Stacey Abrams that was leaked. I don't know. I'm debating on, since I got Twitter now, I may put it out there, but who knows?
I'm not going to do it to our viewers. I'm not doing it.
Look, I'm telling you, me and Buck send Justin some of the wildest things, and one of them being the leaked photos that I pull off of BitTorrent and go duck go. So I'm telling you, look, everybody thinks
I was traumatized.
You know what's so funny is, like, people think it's you. It's really me. I do have a final thought, though. Well,
it's you in some instances.
Yeah. Well, I know when to be passive and when to be just,
No, it's always aggressive.
Always. Same energy, though. Same energy.
So what's the final thought?
Final thought is there are a lot of great events coming up because, and I mean political ones in Northwest Georgia. So get out, make sure you get to meet the candidates' hands. There are a couple of bus tours, a couple of just outings from different politicians from statewide to regional. I know that there's certain things like trunk or treats, with Halloween coming up for the kids. Then there's All Saints Day, which is November 1st. So make sure that everyone gets out there and get involved in your community and get out, because leading up to vote, it's very important that we show our support for our local and statewide representatives, as well as making sure that we continue to push and flood the polls so that the red wave can come through on November 8th. Figure I'd throw it out there.
You heard it here. And as always, this is Conservatives Talk, and we will see y'all soon.